What the hell is going on here then? Israel's lies are increasingly being challenged by Western media outlets who have previously whitewashed Israel's genocide. What does that tell us? It tells us that it is all beginning to fall apart for the apologists for genocide. This week, Israel has attacked two of the only functioning hospitals left in Gaza. And when we say functioning, they are barely functioning. Israel has violently and systematically dismantled the healthcare system in Gaza as part of a genocidal campaign. The mass destruction of hospitals, medical centres, ambulances, the slaughter of doctors, nurses, paramedics, we could go on. This itself imposes a daily death sentence on countless Palestinians who can't get treated for life-threatening health conditions, let alone injuries. On Tuesday, Israel bombed the European hospital, and CCTV footage shows the moment of the attack, with civilians milling around before they realise a missile is coming. They try to flee, but then there's a huge fireball, and then flaming wreckage is left. At least 16 people were killed in that attack. Now, Israel came out and said, as they've often done, that this was a Hamas command and control centre underneath the hospital, and then offered video from an aerial surveillance aircraft to prove it. And as Sky News know, a building is highlighted and marked European hospital. But a Sky News investigation found the footage isn't actually the European hospital at all, but an adjacent school, Jenin Secondary School for Boys. Sky News also say in the video, a series of dark shapes are also highlighted and labelled as underground terrorist infrastructure site revealed following the strike. They go on, Sky News, to report, however, there is no obvious damage visible in the video, and an eyewitness told Sky News that there had been no damage to the school's courtyard. An expert told Sky News that the dark shapes appeared to be markings caused by water, rather than exposed underground infrastructure, such as tunnels. That does look quite obviously to be a drainage ditch with dendritic flow patterns of water heading into the ditch, said Corey Scher, an expert in the use of satellite imagery to assess military environmental damage at Oregon State University. The same drainage patterns, they say, are readily visible in earlier imagery. These appear to be ditches draining water. Now, Sky News challenged Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon. Let's have a watch.
I just want to tell you what our experts have told us. Those tunnels that you're talking about, the dark shapes highlighted there on the screen, the markings were caused by water, not tunnels, because these are drainage systems. And so the dark shades that you're talking about, which Israel claims to be tunnels, are in fact caused by water because of a drainage system.
Well, I'm not familiar with your expert, but I can tell you that, Yilda, that today in Gaza, you have an underground system bigger than the tube in London and the subway in New York City combined. It's a huge infrastructure of tunnels.
Ambassador, so can I confirm that the video that the IDF has put out to say was the European hospital and that there was a tunnel system under there was in fact wrong?
Absolutely not. I told you earlier, we checked it. And we saw tunnels that started in the hospital and went to other areas in the surrounding area of the hospital.
Well, our experts say that this is in fact the courtyard of a school and not a command and control center. And like I said, those tunnels that you point to are in fact, the dark marks were caused by water because of a drainage system. So would you say then and admit that this was in fact a mistake by the IDF?
Absolutely not, and I think we will be able to confirm, some of the individuals who we were able to eliminate in this operation. And you will ask yourself, it was like a school, why you have leaders of the Hamas terrorist organization hiding beneath a school, beneath a hospital. They're taking advantage of those places, but we are determined to hunt them down everywhere.
I'm sorry, You're not answering my question. The footage put out by the IDF, they claimed that it was the tunnel and command and control center underneath the European hospital. The footage, in fact, is of a school. Did the IDF put out the wrong footage or they got it wrong?
No, so I answered you. Maybe you are not happy with the answer I'm giving you.
Well, he even sounds like a pantomime villain. He's lying through his teeth. And the reason he's lying through his teeth is because what the Israeli state does is lie and lie and lie again. Well, more accurately, kill, lie, kill, lie, kill, lie. The fact that Israel thinks it can get away with putting out false footage is because of their impunity. They know that they lie and lie and lie again as they kill and kill and kill. They lie about all the atrocities that they commit. And they know the Western media has a long track record of still treating Israeli claims as credible, as plausible, in a way they would never dream of doing if it was, for example, the Russian authorities. So having once again been presented with cast iron evidence of Israel lying through its teeth about its atrocities, will the Western media stop treating Israeli claims as credible? And in this case, report the facts, that as UN reports have long concluded, Israel is deliberately and systematically destroying Gaza's healthcare system as part of a policy of extermination and indeed genocide. And while we're talking on this subject, Sky News, again to their credit, and again showing how the dam is bursting, took apart Israel's lies on another atrocity. Remember Israel's massacre of 14 Palestinian paramedics and first responders whose bodies were tossed into a mass grave back in March. Remember how all of Israel's lies fell apart, not least because footage from the phone of one of the victims, a paramedic, showed how Israel ambushed and massacred those unarmed medics and first responders with no justification of any description. Well, I'm afraid to say we have an update. There were 4 surviving eyewitnesses to the Israeli military's mass execution of the Palestinian medics, and one of them was named Mohammed Badawel. He was just 12 years old. As Dropsite News report, Mohammed had testified that some of the paramedics were shot at point-blank range, in quotes, from 1 metre away. He was also interviewed by the New York Times for their investigation into the massacre, though his most damning claims were omitted from their final report. He and his father, Saeed Badawel, were abducted by Israeli officer Major Nikolai Asharov and his unit during the killings. The two were later forced to assist in the forced evacuation of Tal al-Sultan. The Israeli military later cited their survival as proof that civilians were not deliberately targeted, while failing to mention they were being spared for operational purposes. Mohammed had been scheduled for a second round of testimony with investigators, this time with paediatric psychologists present. Whereas Palestinian journalist Younis Tarari reports, the Israeli military shot and killed this 12-year-old witness to this paramedic massacre. He also notes that he was the sole surviving witness to the presence of Major Nikolai Asharov and Israeli tanks during the execution of the UN staff member. According to a New York Times journalist, Mohammed al-Badawel, a young witness to the March 23rd attack on medics in Gaza, was killed on Saturday when an Israeli gunboat fired on Rafah Beach. His father, Saeed, asked our colleague today for a photo of his son when he interviewed them together for our report. Did the Israeli state kill this 12-year-old witness to one of their obscene crimes on purpose, so that his testimony could never be properly heard? Or was it simply a case that the Israeli genocidal butchery of Gaza is so extreme that anyone there is at very high risk, and therefore he's another Palestinian civilian randomly mowed down, and at the moment Israel is engaged in a mass killing spree in Gaza? Both explanations are profoundly damning, of course, and both speak to genocidal depravity. Let's end with this from a Conservative MP, Kit Malthouse, addressing the Labour Minister, Hamish Falconer.
It's increasingly difficult to keep up with the slaughter in Gaza, the brutality and cruelty in the West Bank, and starvation as a policy. And the crimes come daily. Crimes such as the recent killing of Mohammed Badawel, one of only 3 key eyewitnesses to the slaughter of rescue workers just a few weeks ago, their bodies being buried in shallow graves. It's clear to everybody that crimes are being committed daily. Now, as a number of members have pointed out, the UK is a party to international agreements which provide for a positive obligation to act to prevent genocide, torture, to protect the rights of other people. And we have an obligation as a member of the Security Council of the United Nations and as a state party to the Geneva Conventions to promote peace and security. So what advice has the Minister taken as to his own liability in this regard, which will attach to him as a decision maker? And has the government received advice as to whether the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, or indeed any senior officials or previous ministers may be exposed when the reckoning comes?
Well, indeed, the reckoning will come. It should be increasingly clear to us all now that this crime really is too big, too extreme, too documented, to confess to, that people really are going to suffer the consequences for what they have done. I've never been more convinced that British ministers who are continuing to arm this genocide, they're continuing to arm it, they're continuing to offer crucial components for F-35 jets to rain down on the people of Gaza, they're going to end up getting arrested. They're going to end up hauled before the courts. They're going to end up being sentenced to prison for complicity in some of the gravest possible crimes that humans are capable of. It's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen next month. It almost certainly won't happen next year. It's going to come. Winds can shift very quickly, and you can already see how the mood, if you like, in the British establishment is beginning to shift, given the enormity of the crime. And I think the perpetrators are beginning to realise it. They'll try and claim ignorance. They'll try and claim they tried to mitigate what Israel was doing, but they armed and facilitated genocide. They armed and facilitated heinous war crimes. And one day, they're going to realise their time is up. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts in your comments. Help us take on the pro-genocide media and political elite at patreon.com/OwenJones84. As you can see, I have a brilliant person who does all of this and reaches a big audience across the different platforms. You make all that possible, so do support us if you can. Listen to the podcast, share the video. I'll speak to you in a bit.